I will be talking today about augmented reality queuing in Parkinson's disease. And first of all, I want to say, why queuing? People with Parkinson's disease may suffer from freezing of gait, which is the feeling that your feet are stuck on the ground, preventing you from an effective forward movement. External queuing is a well-known compensation strategy to alleviate this freezing. For example, by placing physical cues on the ground that can serve as a target for foot placement, as you can see in this video. So here a patient is freezing, but then if you're providing some lines, some physical cues, he's able to step over it and continue walking. But as you can imagine, you're not able to place these traditional cues within the environment of the patient. So that's why the idea came up to provide these type of cues within AR, so within AR headsets. And in the past, several studies have focused on providing AR queuing, so within AR headsets. For example, a study of HoloQ, which you can see over here, which provided these type of cues within AR headsets within the home environment of patients with Parkinson's disease. And here you see an example. On the left, you see a patient walking without the cues, and on the right, you see the patient walking with the cues with the application called HoloQ. And as you can see, the patient is not only experiencing less freezing episodes, 0 episodes instead of 4 episodes, he's also walking quite faster and making bigger steps. And as you see in this video, the cues are there always, so they're consciously there. But there are different ways how we could provide queuing. Another way which we could provide cues is on demand, so only assisted when needed. And I will show you some examples of that as well. So focus on the bottom video, in which you see a typical Dutch location, which cues could be activated by the patient by use of a voice command. There's no sound in this video, but here the patient enters a location in which he thinks that he will need cues, and he simply can say, cues on, and then the cues will be provided. In this example, there were stepping targets. Another idea is presented on the left video, which cues can be triggered by head movement. So if a patient is looking down, the cues will appear, as you see here. And then you can step over it, which is a study of the Cleveland Clinic. The same type of cues are also displayed on the top video, but then the cues are activated automatically by your freezing detection algorithm. So in this example, you see a patient, well, not a patient, but the experimenter, mimicking a freezing episode, and then the cues appear, and you can step over it. And as you saw in this example and the other example of the Cleveland Clinic, the cues encircle the patient, enabling them to move in any direction. So we have seen several ideas how we could provide queuing, but what do the patients want? Well, we did a focus group with the end user, so the Parkinson's disease patients, to ask them, how could AR support you during walking, during gait? And several ideas came up. So freezing was mentioned, but someone else also said, well, I'm also making very small steps. Maybe I can have some cues to improve my steps. And someone else said, well, I'm walking quite slow, which is typical for freezing, called bradykinesia. Maybe I can have a cue that can help me to walk faster. But everything that you are describing is always on the ground, so I'm forced to look down all the time. Can you provide something in the air, maybe? So what we learned from the focus group is that queuing could do way more than just freezing. Queuing could help to support gait in several aspects. So then we took a step back and we thought, well, okay, that's a good result, but how can we do that? Can we modify with AR cues the gait of people with Parkinson's disease? And that's what we looked at in our lab. So in this example, you will see a Parkinson's disease patient, and we tried to impose different step lengths. And on the top video, you see a step length that is shorter than its own preferred step length. And on the bottom video, you see a step length imposed longer than its preferred step length. And here you will see the patient walking over cues projected by a projector. So they're there in the real world. And as you can see, he's walking over the cues, over the stepping target. And if you look at the arrows, you can see that he's improving his step length on the longer condition. Then we provided the same type of cues, but then with the AR headset in the form of dinosaur footprints. So the same imposed step length, but then with AR instead of the projector. And as you can see, he is again adapting his step length. So yes, we were able to modify the step length. But what can we do more? So we also looked at the gait speed. We tried to impose different gait speed, one slower than its own preferred gait speed and one faster than its preferred gait speed. And the cue was a line that was moving in front of the patient, and we instructed the patient to walk at a constant distance behind the line. And first you will see the patient walking behind a projected cue, so the real world cue. And you see that he's faster on the bottom video. And then we did the same again, but we provided the line within the AR headset. And again, you see the patient adapting his walking speed. And then remind yourself the women who said, well, maybe you can give me something in the air. Well, that's actually what we did. So we provided a bird in the air that was flying in front of the patient at the same speed, and we asked the patient to follow the bird. And the bird was flying on eye height, as you can see in this video. So you see that the patient is still adapting his walking speed, but he's not forced to look down all the time. He's looking straight ahead. So yes, we were also able to modify the gait speed. And finally, we also looked at the stepping height. So we implemented first a physical hurdle, and we asked the patient to step over it at two different heights, a low and a higher hurdle. And you see that the patient on the higher condition is lifting his feet higher. And then we did, again, exactly the same, but we presented the hurdle within AR. And you see again that the patient is lifting his feet higher with a high hurdle. So yes, we were also able to modify step height. And in this examples, you saw one patient, but we did the experiment with 21 patients. 21 patients with Parkinson's disease, and we recently published the results. And overall, we found that we were able to modify the gait of patients with Parkinson's disease with real-world cues, but also with AR cues, and we didn't find differences between those two. So feel free to read the paper. So what's next? We've now seen that we are able to modify the gait of people with Parkinson's disease, and I've showed you several ideas how we can implement cues into the environment. And that's exactly what we plan to do in the upcoming years with our new project called Navigate, in which we want to move towards an AR cueing assistive device. And for that, we need to incorporate several aspects, and I will show you one of them in this video, as the cues need to be taking into account your environment. So the cues need to adapt based on where you're walking. So here you see someone walking in the office, and you can see that the cues adapt to your walking direction without taking into account the environment, so you're not facing any walls or doors. So that and other aspects, such as that cues need to be personalized to the patient and take into account several tasks, such as turning and gait initiation, will be incorporated for the upcoming years. We will be doing that with our research partner Stroll, who is also here today, so really go visit them. And in the meanwhile, I will keep you updated about the research, and you can read my article about the gait modeling of high effects. Thank you.